Hey, it should be another draft physics video presentation. Yay. Alright, so I'll do this pyrrho video first, and then we'll move on to something else. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see how time works out and all that crap. So he's pretending to respond to something, but he responds to nothing. He, just distract and distortion instead of actually dealing with the actual points made. Just wander off on bullshit that is tangential at best. Anyway, so context is I made a video on the slit experiments just 2 videos ago, and it's solid. Okay, you're not gonna this idiot's not going to be able to respond to that, right? So instead, he's talking about a bunch of superfluous, whatever. The stuff on the sides doesn't matter. Clearly, they use Huygens, okay, to create 2 waves in a single slit so something can interfere. Something has to interfere with something, right? So there has to be 2 of something for there to be interference in the single slit experiment. It's just so bad. Why is the distance in the math? Because it's 2 points. Okay, the starting point and the ending point, the A point, the B point. There's 2 points in a distance. Anyway, it's just too stupid. So he writes fairness on here, and so let's understand this is the guy. So this is the kind of crap evidence he's presented in the past for the single slit, and I point out, and it's like this doesn't phase these morons because they keep doing it. So yes, you can take a single slit and you can, you do the experiment right. That is, you're plain waves in, no noise, and you'll get a nice round wave out, and the wave will propagate, and it will create no interference pattern at all. Now, you can agitate something so these waves aren't plain anymore. They're completely distorted and of different frequencies, and lots of different stuff going in. You create noise in here, and you can get noise out. You can get a pattern because you've created different frequencies and put them through the same slit and created noise. Now, if you did the double slit with this, okay, you wouldn't get the double slit pattern. Wouldn't happen with waves either. You'd get some other pattern, but it wouldn't be anywhere close to the double slit pattern. So obviously this isn't how you do the experiment, and it's to use this as evidence of something is the same as like if I was doing some sort of rat laboratory experiment, right? And I had a controlled rats over here, and I was going to give these other half of the rats, my magic formula. But first I decided, well, I'm going to inject these rats with cancer, right? And so then I'm going to say, hey, look, my rats don't get cancer. Okay, it's a miracle. If they take my magic pill, they don't get cancer. I mean, it's no worse than somebody doing science that way. Changing a control, doing the control at 40 degrees and then doing the real experiment at 400 degrees. It's such a cheat. It's such an obvious violation of anything reasonable. And the whole Huygens thing is such a violation because they call it a principle. And yet, when they're doing the 2 different experiments, the single slit, Huygens, okay, double slit, whatever Huygens does, they don't bother with it here, okay, because what it'll do here is it won't create the Young double slit wave pattern interference, because in the Young drawing, there's only 2 waves, because if they used Huygens, they'd end up with 4 waves, and guess what? They're in the wrong place. They're here, and here, and here, and here. And even if they did the 4 waves, they're still in the wrong place in the sense that the only distances that matter is the interior slit distance, okay, and the farthest away distance. Those are the only 2 distances that are creating the pattern, okay. So putting waves here, 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 and here won't do you any good. You have to put a wave here, right where the impediment is, and you have to put a wave here. That's the only way the thing will work. Okay, so there's no consistency. They don't even know what the word principle means. They don't know what it means to do a controlled experiment, and they don't know what repeating an experiment means. So they can't do any of those basic elements of science, and yet they think they're more scientific. No, they're more religious. fanatic religious kooks defending a Bible. Old, archaic crap. Alright, so another thing to know about Huygens, right? Just for the sake of pointing out how absolutely ridiculous this whole argument is. I mean, it really should be over right from the start. Look, Huygens was doing okay for back in 1659 or whatever the hell when he came up with this crap. But the idea is there's a wave. And the idea would be, waves coming. And so you could say like even ocean waves. And the idea is you say, oh, well, how's the next wave being created? Well, Huygens thought up this idea. Well, if I put a bunch of waves in, that each point makes a wave, well, I could sort of think that, yeah, that sort of works. But the only downside, because it sort of creates a wave here, but it's going to be lumpy, okay? So, that's no good, lumpiness. That's not identical to this wave. This new lumpy wave isn't identical. But if I make these an infinite number, okay, if I create an infinite number of them, well, then this line will be straight. And then you'll have line and then straight line if I make an infinite number of little lumps, okay? But there's nothing about Huygens, okay, that says, well, here's a surface. All of a sudden, the wave is going to curve. There's nothing. Huygensing doesn't make straight waves, lumpy straight waves, into a curved wave. Now, Huygens can't do that. Okay, so there's no Huygens principle for that. And it certainly isn't going to make two waves inside of a surface, right? So clearly what they do is when they're drawing Huygens, they say, well, okay, if I do this Huygens thing, then I can split this in half, and I can say everything on this side cancels with everything on this side, and everything on this side cancels with everything on this side, and therefore I'm left with a wave and a wave. But they won't draw the waves there. They draw the waves here, because that's the only way it can work. It doesn't work mathematically. It works visually. Mathematically, these are the point sources. Okay? Mathematically. This is the point source. This is the distance in the math. Okay? Not the center of this wave and the center of this wave. That's not in the math. So the horse shit is just so thick, so piled up, and they're saying, it's cake frosting. So again, he doesn't respond to anything physics here. He spends most of the time wasting our time talking mush.
I feel like I should call this episode 1 of My Friend Gary. Now, Gary, I hope you see this.
Yeah, I watch your video. I don't watch your political videos because you're an idiot and there's just no value in them. But whatever. Yes, if you address a video to me, I do watch it. And it's to my detriment because my neurons are not in any way enhanced by the process. I even watched your sort of physics video before this that wasn't addressed to me. And you're just sounding like a little fractal girl, with your golden ratio meaning something. Look, it makes pretty pictures. Oh, it's pathetic. You are a Ken Wheelerist.
Yes, I have had a bit to drink. I didn't drink all week, and it's Friday, and I've had a little bit.
Yeah, well, maybe you should take a year off and see how that goes. But whatever, who cares? All right, we're past the little drinking thing. Okay, yes, I apparently can't tell when you're drunk and when you're not drunk. Because I guess your performance level is that low.
To drink now, I'm on coffee. Because there was still a third of a pot of coffee up there, but made me want to talk to you.
Fuck.
Now,
I want. It really isn't, this isn't the subject. Okay, you want your physics to be true. Well, sorry, it's not.
You could just speed it up if I'm talking too slowly.
Well, I do have it a little sped up. I probably should have sped up a little bit more, but whatever. I'm trying to be fair. He types fairness on the fucking video. He doesn't know what the word means, like principle.
I think that's what I do with you. So,
yeah, right. It's fair never, okay, to actually play the videos I'd like you to address. It's fair never to answer the questions I directly ask. And no, answer the ones I didn't ask.
I mean, one, okay, it's a little bit hurtful that you say nobody will talk to you, but
I don't know what this little hurtful for. I say nobody will talk to me because they're all despicable cowards, and it's sort of been proven that they have nothing to gain by talking to me because I'm going to definitely show the weakness of their physics, and that's the truth. They really won't gain anything because I'm going to ask them questions about their silly Huygenses and their other stuff that they don't have answers for. The flaws and the irregularities and the lack of principles are right there to be described, and they know they're not going to win by trying to explain, well, yeah, we do change Huygens when we go from one slit to two slits. Yeah. I mean, it's not a principle, it's just, it's a virtual principle, sort of thingy.
I would talk to you. But I want to say you're afraid, but whatever it is.
I mean, just amazing. I'm the one afraid when I'm having to pay somebody to fight me. Please show up so I can force you to answer the actual questions I actually ask.
However you would characterize it.
That's how I would characterize it. Yes. Answer the questions I actually ask.
I mean, want to try to talk to a science teacher. So, okay, he's got education. It seems to me more about how many subscribers they've stacked.
Right. So let's understand that I solicited Van Briesen when he was getting less than 200 views per video. Okay. I all of them. Okay. AB Science. Before he was anybody, and we made 3 videos. I can go down the list. Lots of people I've solicited for this conversation because I saw they had a physics degree. They were talking physics, and yeah, they might not be very showy on the internet, but I'm just soliciting the professionalism. I don't care how many fucking viewers they have. I mean, obviously I'll pay more for somebody who has a lot of viewers. That'll be more fun.
And I think you kind of admit that.
So more horse shit. No, I don't kind of admit that. I just stated it pretty clearly. I'm looking for somebody professional. Yes, it's quite obvious it'd be great if they also have some notoriety and some reputation to destroy. Yeah, that would be really great.
Because otherwise, I took a lot of science courses in...
yes, at Berkeley. So just keep saying the word Berkeley. Berkeley, Berkeley, Berkeley. You took a lot of shit in college, I bet. I don't know whether you actually injected any of it, but I'm sure you took a lot of shit. I don't know if you learned anything.
College, which helped me work in the sciences in my career.
Again, for the government, in the sciences, doing LIGO kind of horse shit.
20 years out of my career working for Berkeley Astronomy Department or observatories.
We all don't know how much waste and crap there is in those institutions. How many dollars they throw away per dollar that does any good.
And I understand a lot about how scientists think, and really...
You mean the ones who have sold some stupid idea to some government official?
From other people, you're going to get the same response. Other educated people in science, you're going to get the same responses from me.
What a whole pile of horse shit. Well, if I get the same response, if they show up with the fake evidence, then we'll really know it's a conspiracy then, right? I won't be able to make this argument, no, it's not a conspiracy. They're not all cheaters and thieves. No, that's just you silly people, okay? The silly fanatics for the religion, all right, are the ones, burning the city down. Not the Pope knows that's not a brilliant idea. So if I can get to one of these authorities, they'll tell the heathens that they're not doing it right. You're really pitiful defenders of your faith. Because you have to cheat to do it. I mean, overtly cheat. Again, that's the evidence he showed me. Look, there is diffraction in water waves. If I put it into the slit, yeah. If I put interference in, I get interference out. Ha 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 ha. Duh.
A little more harsh. probably a little less subtle, a little less.
A lot less intelligent and a lot less accountable. Again, I mean, you got nothing to lose. You're already a loser. Okay, I'm looking for somebody who's a scientific winner.
A little less. And
I mean, it's you beating up you is beating up a cripple. It doesn't get me anywhere. It's not going to get me my title bout.
You could get the feedback on the problems with your system.
There's no problem. Again, you will never get to my system. You will always just distract and distort. You will force me to waste time explaining how putting noise into the experiment is violating the rules of doing a scientific experiment. You can't put noise in and then say, look, there's noise out. Okay, that's violating a fundamental scientific rule. You wasting my time having to explain that. You're not fucking addressing my theory because you haven't listened to it.
And not just for me. I'm sure other people that view you, but
the other trolls like you who use fake evidence, fake arguments, never address the questions I ask, always on peripheral issues, and some of them extremely personal and none of their fucking business.
It's bizarre, your obsession with the idea that if you... Now, the part that's not bizarre is that, if you have a talk with Simon Dan and he'll put you on his channel, then okay, that's...
I don't think Simon Dan is much of a scientist, but regardless, that's one guy I didn't ask because he did a response. He's another guy who just goes after the clickbait morons. So he did a response video. No, who he took on? He took on the other whatever that guy is, Scientific Lee. Yes, yeah, the kook, the religious nut.
That's a marketing move. Fine, okay. I'm not saying that's not validly what it's advertised to be. I'm just saying in general, if you really want the feedback, you actually do have it.
Right, from trolls, morons, unprincipled, lying scum. Okay, you're a lying scum when you sit there and tell me you don't know that you presented distorted evidence. That you don't do the double slit experiment with a bunch of noisy waves. Nobody demonstrates the double slit in the wave tank with noisy waves because they won't get the right pattern. And you know it.
Of course, it's not really just about the conversation for people like yourself. It's about trying to propagate perspective.
No, it's about to see if there's any honest humans on this fucking scuzzy planet. I mean, I've already pointed out how the life sucks, but it sucks even more because humans fucking suck. You're lying, shystery scum. And that's all I'm finding, is there's nobody with any integrity. Your science sucks, it's under-evidenced, and you are just in love with it. It's your fucking religion, your little fractal crap of hope. Okay, because the universe is all infinite and Huygensy, you can make excuses for everything. Well, maybe the Huygens will come to the rescue.
Was that loud? Could you even hear that? So anyway, that's nice. So yeah, a couple things watching your videos that have really bothered me. First of all, the whole Huygens thing. Look, Huygens does not...
The Huygens thing. I couldn't care less about the Huygens thing, okay? The Huygens thing. That's your crap. I'm making two explicit accusations. First, you don't use Huygens consistently. Whatever crap you're using to contrive two waves in the single slit, you're not using the same principle to contrive four waves in the double slit. And that's what you should be doing if you had any understanding of the word principle.
Say that when a wave hits a slit, two waves are created. You must know this. That's not what it said.
What a pile of crap. So he just makes up stuff. So this is another one of his videos with no evidence, no drawings, no anything. He's just going to talk shit. So again, first we have two phenomenon here, right? We have the fact that somehow we have to make two things that interfere with each other, right? And for their theory to work, somehow we have to make round things come out. Straight things go in, and somehow round things have to come out. All right, so that's their problem, right? Scatter, you can understand. Okay, it scatters this way one time, it goes that way the other time, it goes this way the other time. Each photon scatters differently. That can be understood. This shit can't be. So again, we're back to the argument. We know in water waves why the wave goes round. Because there's friction with the surfaces. The water slows down, and the little water molecules are tied to each other, so the other ones slow down. We don't have any explanation of how two waves pop out of the single slit, and they're somehow round for some fucking reason. Huygens doesn't explain that.
First of all, Huygens has nothing to do with the slit. It has to do with if you have a wave front. It could be a straight wave. Maybe I put a board into the water and I push the straight wave. It'll start to curve at certain parts, but it could be pretty straight.
It would start to curve Y in some parts. It didn't explain the Y parts again, so we're the absence of explanation once again. Now, obviously, on the ends of the board, it would start to curve because there's no board pushing it there, but the water molecules are still connected to each other, so they're dragging some of the water that wasn't pushed by the board. They're dragging it along. So it's moving slower because it's only moving because of drag, being forced to drag it along, like your kid, and the kid doesn't walk fast enough, so you have to kind of drag it along. You know how that goes.
But you could also have some weird-shaped log fell into the water, and the wave starts off as a, I don't know.
La-la-li-da-li-da-li-da-li-da. I mean, this is just such bullshit. The wave starts off all this way, and it goes off on sacred geometry and beyond.
How will it propagate? Huygens is a way of mathematically approaching that.
It's not a mathematical anything, so that's just horseshit. There's no Huygens math. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing. There's no Huygens formula. There's Huygens is some dopey idea, some dopey theory that there's an infinite number of point sources when there isn't.
That says that, well, when you have the wavefront, whatever...
I mean, you think there's an infinite number of point sources inside a light bulb? I mean, there's an infinite number of electrons and protons producing the photons? No, nobody falls for that. Well, I don't know. Maybe there are some people that fall for that. Fuck. I mean, you're just too... This planet is too stupid. Too stupid.
The shape, the way it's going to propagate is if you treat every point along that wavefront as a little point source of a ripple. When you...
Every point. The infinite number of every points. Again, you have to make it infinite or the waves don't propagate. The same wave doesn't propagate. It gets more and more distorted as it moves through, and it gets, and distorted not in a good way, distorted in ways that won't help them any.
Drop a little tiny pebble in the water.
Yes, and you get nice circular waves. You don't get any interference pattern. Jesus. So he hasn't watched the 2-slit video I made 2 days ago. He hasn't watched it. Fuck.
And a ripple goes out. Treat every point along that shape, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a straight line, and then you turn it into two lumpy things.
As a little point source, and it's next to an infinite number of point sources next to it.
Made out of the infinite number of... There's an infinite number of chalks inside this piece of chalk. There's little chalks in there, and there's an infinite number of the little chalks. They think that's grounded physics. Why don't I see how obvious that is? Oh yes, that must be the truth. Fuck.
If you added up all of those, that'll tell you how the wave propagates.
If I add infinity to half an infinity and then 3/4 of an infinity, I get 4 1/15 worth of infinity. I'm a scientist.
That's the idea. and it works.
Well, it doesn't. That's the whole fucking point. It doesn't even work. It doesn't even get the answers right, which is hilarious, right? They just say, oh yeah, it's close enough. It's an approximation. It's over there, right? Is it over there, over there, over there? Aren't all those places over there? So it's close enough, isn't it?
So when a wave hits a slit, you have to take the part of the slit.
Let's understand again. So, and this is proven by the fact that right there, math says it should gradually go on and gradually turn off. When clearly that's not happening in the light experiment. And the reason why is because the blocks are really being just made by the fact that you can change the phase a little bit and it still looks like a photon. You know, it's still detectable as a photon. But if you change the phase too much, then it cuts off. So that's why there's a cutoff where you just can't fuck up the wave that much and it still looks like a red photon, right? I mean, I could have a red photon with a distance, and the distance can be a little bit off, a little bit off. That's okay. But you get to a certain amount of off, and it's too much off. Just like a radio, tuning in a radio. You know, it's really tough at the edges, and then it stays on. You know, when you go in the middle part, it's good, you know, and then it's off again. You know, it's not a nice gradual curve of good reception and bad reception. It's pretty much you get reception, and then you get shittiness on the edges. That's the truth. Their theory isn't what the results are.
Where the wave is allowed through, take an infinite number of
So he did again, you know. So his starting point is you have to believe there are such a thing as infinities inside of these, you know, mechanisms. That's our starting point, and he proved that with this famous infinity experiment. Fuck.
sources, mathematically, mind you.
No, you're modeling. You're telling me this is an accurate model. Okay, that's what math is. It's a very formalized, you know, all the inefficiencies taken out, all the superfluous information taken out. Here's the real stuff that matters. And guess what? There is no infinity in the math. There's no Huygens in the math. Huygens is a way to get to the math. It's a way of explaining why there's two point sources when there really isn't, because there aren't two waves. There's 2 point sources, and they're called surfaces. And that's why the distance is identifying their place in space. How many little waves fit in between those 2 points? And that'll tell you exactly what pattern you're going to get.
Along there, imagine that they're all propagating and interfering or whatever, you know,
or whatever wave calculations. Again, they're not wave calculations, they're geometrical vector calculations. So again, understand, the math doesn't have a wave in it. The wave is used to put the algebra on top of. Okay? It has nothing. The math is all straight line vectors. There's no waves in the math.
Calculations, wave mathematics. And
so again, there's no such thing. Let's understand, there's no wave formula.
That will tell you how it propagates, and in that simple case, how it starts to fan out.
So, more nonsense. How it starts to fan out by the magical fan out principle. You know, so again, the whole subject is about what's causing the fanning out. And you have no physical mechanism. No physical, logical reasoning why 2 waves are created that are interfering with each other to create the pattern.
And why, basically, mathematically, why it fans out.
Pitiful.
The 2 sources thing is just that, look, adding up an infinite number of cases along a wavefront is a lot of cases. Infinite. That's quite a lot. So let's say you just did 10. But that's not good enough. Let's say you did 100,000.
Well, no, let's say you did just 10. So again, you're just saying, I made these 8 cancel out, so I left these 2 end ones behind. And what if I make an odd number? What if I make it 11? Yeah. Then I got 3 left over.
Or 5,000 or whatever. You could split it up. The smaller you split it up, the more accurate your calculation would get. And if you use calculus...
Okay, so again, this has nothing to do with a calculation. There's nothing about doing Huygens that makes 2 waves. If it did, they would draw the 4-wave solution for the double slit. So again, let's go back to the famous Young experiment. That's the whole history of quantum mechanics. Where in Young's drawing are there 4 waves in the double slit? Oh, they're not there.
And add them all up, it could be perfect, but the problem is that is computationally complex.
So I've shown how computationally simple. Just figure out how many wavelengths fit in the D, the distance between this surface and this surface, right? Just figure out how many wavelengths are in here, right? And then just draw a circle anywhere you want to here, any distance from this you want to, and just subdivide it by twice as many of this number. So just this gives you half the one side, because each side is going here, and each side is going over here. So that's why you have to double it. But it's that simple. So you just figure out how many wavelengths fit in this distance, okay, times 2. And then just spread that over the length of the circumference of whatever circle you want to make, and you'll know exactly how many on-offs there are. Exactly.
Even computers have trouble doing 3-dimensional propagation calculations like that.
Well, frankly, we're not worried about any of the 3rd-dimensional ones, so it's completely irrelevant. They're not, part of the story in this case, because it's only a 2-dimensional surface.
And
it's only 2-dimensionally affecting the photons in terms of scattering them.
And in a slit, when you're 50 or 70 years ago, and you're doing this on paper, it turns out that in a single slit diffraction, where
so he says Professor Lewin is wrong and deluded when Professor Lewin says this has nothing to do with diffraction. He overtly says, he makes a whole speech out of it before his lecture, saying this isn't about diffraction. The same thing that's causing the double slit is causing the single slit. It's not diffraction. It's clearly interference. So he says Professor Lewin is an idiot on this subject. I think he is, but I'm just saying he's saying it now too. So MIT doesn't know what it's talking about.
It's out and you have certain dark bands. Where are the dark bands? Well, they're in the same places as if you had 2 point sources. It doesn't create 2 waves. The point is...
No, the point is you're silly and deluded. It doesn't do any of those things unless you create 2 sources. There has to be 2 point sources. That's the math. The math is made out of 2 point sources. You can't get your sine theta. You can't do any of it without the 2 point sources. There has to be 2 lines that intersect somewhere. Okay, and if you don't have those 2 lines, you don't have any math. Oh, this is pathetic. He is so off the fucking subject. It is amazing that he calls this, that he in his crazy, insane mind, he thinks this is somehow a response. And it's so fucking infantile. It's so undone.
You could split that wavefront into 1,000 and add all those up. You could split it into 100 and add those up. You could split it into 50 or 20.
No, you can't, actually. You can't. There has to be this distance because it has to be the wavelengths. You have to have the wavelength differences to decide where the pattern's going to be. So there is no, he can't do that. He can't show us that working. Because it won't work.
5 or 10 or 5. And it turns out that if you want to know where the dark bands are in a single slit diffraction pattern, sort of internal interference in the wave, you can find out where those dark bands are based on approximation with just 2 out of the infinite.
Yeah, that's right. And the 2 have to be, guess what? The 2 that are defining the length of the fucking opening. They can't be 2 here and here. They can't be 2 here and here. They can't be 2 anywhere but exactly the distance of the opening. That's why the variable is right there in the math. Why do you think they put that distance in the math? Oh, yeah, that's right, because that's the one that matters. The complete distance. Not half the distance or a quarter of the distance or what. No. You can't pick any 2 points. You have to pick 2 specific points.
It's 2 out of the infinite, and you find out where the dark bands are. How much are the bright bands and the rest of that? No. It doesn't help you figure that out.
Well, it should, because guess what? They're equally spaced. So that geometry is kind of set. Amazing. It helps you find the dark bands, but you can't figure out where the light bands are, because that's a mystery. Oh, they're in between the dark bands. I mean, it's just, this is so fucking stupid. This is like describing cars by going, well, the car makes a vroom sound, and you push this lever, and it somehow is pulling on a squirrel's tail, and then the squirrel goes vroom. This isn't the subject.
It just does it.
It's
an approximation.
It's an approximation. That's exactly right. It fits perfectly.
And that's pretty amazing, actually. That.
Oh, fuck. It's pretty amazing that I have to have this conversation on Earth. That people are this stupid and dishonest and crooked and fucking, lost in their fucking, so lost up their own asses that you even have to have this conversation.
You have an idea where if you split it up into an infinite number of source points...
He did it again. If I, take LSD and then start splitting things into fucking infinite? Why would I want to split anything into infinite little pieces? Would that be in one of your cooking recipe? Well, cut the carrot into an infinite number of pieces. No, I won't do that.
Points. You can calculate the exact propagation.
Alright, so more crap. He just says it's an approximation. Yeah, but you can calculate the exact. It's an exact approximation. See, words don't mean anything to these people. They just have no fucking respect for fucking vocabulary.
But you actually get good aspects of your approximation.
Good aspects of your approximation. I mean, it's just this qualification. Our answer is correct and right and super cool and very nice, and it's pleasant and wonderful and delightful and all of those things. That's what our answers are. Delightful.
Just 2. Right? So that's actually quite interesting. But, on the other hand, it doesn't prove anything in itself, except to say that...
Yeah, it's completely irrelevant, even if it was, if I cared and you paid any even attention to this nonsense, it still wouldn't give you any of the answers that really matter, like, well, does where the photon was going, does it get dark there? Yeah, it's not going to answer that one, the big one.
Huygens is about wave propagation. When the wave hits...
So again, it's about wave propagation. The flat waves go in, the crooked waves come out because of the magic friction. Yes. The wave friction. Photons have friction.
The slit and part of the wave is cut off. It continues to talk about wave propagation. Why does the little tiny segment that makes it through a slit, why does it start to fan out? It explains a mathematical calculation that matches that fanning out.
All right, so there's nothing in the math, okay? No, there's no such thing. There's 2 points in the math, represented by the distance. Okay, zero distance and whatever the maximum distance is, and that's what's in the math. The distance. There's none of this crap in the math. There's 2 different places you draw straight lines from. That's what's in the fucking math. So this is all just it's so overtly a lie. I mean, he knows that. He's seen these drawings, you know, to draw the 2 lines from the 2 points, and, you know, you have their sine theta here because of these 2 lines. If you put them on top of each other, there'd be this much extra distance, and that extra distance is represented by this angle, which is a converse to this normal angle here, and this sine theta equals this sine theta, blah, 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 blah. But they're straight lines to the points. The geometry isn't elusive. There's no wave in there. There's no Huygens in there. There's none of that crap in any of the math.
That's the point of that. And this is really similar to me to another big problem with your system, which is not that you have your own system. That's fine.
Oh, fuck you. This is you have the freedom to have your own system. No, it's about fucking arguing, okay, with some sort of evidence. This is a trial. You're saying so-and-so is guilty. I'm saying so-and-so is innocent, okay? That's the first part. And then I'm saying I have evidence that this guy is really guilty, all right? So there's 2 parts to this. I can prove my guy is guilty, and I can prove your guy is innocent. All right, and that's what's happening here. And we're 2 fucking lawyers arguing this case. And you're coming to this trial with absolute bullshit as arguments. Guns that you bought at the store and you're putting them on the fucking evidence table. And then you're taking the evidence that exists and you're shooting cancer into it for fucking who knows what good reason. All right, to prove something, okay, that there's, in the first place, your evidence table is almost empty. There's nothing there. Except, well, we have an approximated exact mathematical thing. I mean, it's approximately exact. Or exactly approximal. Whichever one you like. Your evidence sucks. Your arguments suck. And this trial should be, the judge should be throwing up on his bench. Or whatever he has. His authority table. This is disgusting as a fucking goddamn logical conversation, and it's not because of anything I've done wrong. It's all on you. Your manner, your approach, your arrogance, your obnoxiousness, your fucking preposterous exaggerations about how everything was invented by quantum mechanics, that it's the most trusted and tested math in the history of mankind, when it isn't even coherent math. You change it from one experiment to the next. Oh, the distance, okay, the opening distance, guess what? That's D. And then another experiment, the impediment, D, is the fucking variable in the math. This equals that. So, going right through a brick wall is the same as going through an opening in a brick wall. That's approximately the same thing. I mean, this is fucking ludicrous.
But it's the fact that your system relies at this point on...
Big lie coming right here, right? How much you want to bet? Big fucking preposterous lie. It relies on 2 plus 2 plus 2. That's what it relies on. The existence of 2 forces, okay, the same force really, just 2 colors, 2 kinds of particles, plus minus, electron, proton, and 2 kinds of interaction. That's what it relies on. But go ahead. In the slit experiment, it relies on the phenomenon of scatter.
Scientists just lie.
Well, I've just demonstrated it. It's exactly approximal. I mean, you know, there's the wave formula. There's no wave formula. There's geometry. Straight lines. No waves. The math is all straight lines.
100 years of experimentation, we didn't really do it.
Okay, so more lies, right? I mean, you didn't really do any detector experiments. That's a fact. Go watch the Dr. Quantum video, the most watched physics video on YouTube. Go watch it and tell me they did any of that shit. Show me any paper demonstrating where they ever attempted to detect a photon or attempted to detect an electron. Go ahead, show me, you fucking liar.
Day we did it. We tell the college students like Pyrrho, that we did it. If he was a grad student, then we tell him how we fake it. I mean,
well, I'm sorry. That is a fake, okay? If you think that really happened, then you've been fooled by the fakery, okay? Because it didn't happen, okay? They didn't do these experiments. Oh, you cover one of the slits and blah, 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 blah. No, they didn't do the experiment.
How is this conspiracy possibly supposed to...
So more of a conspiracy bullshit, right? I'm not claiming how could idiots like you conspire? No, you're fucking religious fanatics. They don't need to conspire to do anything. They're all idiots and they consistently do idiotic things. You're fanatics for a fucking wooey pile of shit. All right? And the stupid human dupes follow along.
...to heed thousands of people that it would have to be in on it. It makes no sense.
Okay, so more in on it theory. So where did I just quote me? Quote me where I made any assertion that physicists are part of a cabal and they've organized the lie. No, I've claimed individual physicists have cheated the fuck out of reality. Okay, that silly fuck with the stupid LIGO shit with that stupid Interstellar movie, whatever the Tim Thorne or whatever his name is, comes up with this preposterous nonsense that you can convert matter into wooey, into fucking bent space. Nobody tests it, nobody argues with it, nobody explains why there's no other experiment demonstrating that ever happens in the history of the universe, yet we've decided that's a fact now, that you can convert matter into woo space. I'm saying that's not a conspiracy. The conspiracy is benign. Who gives a shit? Go ahead and tell any gingerbread story and physicists will believe it. So invent some crap that, well, we have this entanglement problem, but well, we can solve it if we just make multiverses. We'll just make a new universe for every weird thing that happens. And so then we're done. We don't have to worry about weirdness anymore. Because it happened in the other universe. The alternative, the unweird thing happened in the other universe.
If your scientific system relies on that.
So just a lie. My scientific system relies on physicists being liars. No, it doesn't. The fact that the facts have been ignored, that the reasoning that would have gotten to the right answers instead of these stupid, idiotic, wrong answers are just because you all became wave fanatics. And wave was a dumb idea. Why you think a photon is waving somewhere is just a bad idea, and you've built a whole physics based on a bad idea. You made a wrong guess, you went down the wrong direction, and there's nothing there. There's nothing to pave your road to. So you're just wandering, paving road, but there's no place to go because you chose badly.
We don't even have to consider it. That's why you can't find anybody besides me that likes you and wants to be your friend.
Oh, again, this bullshit, right? So again, these fucking idiotic arguments. You don't address a single fucking real point made in any of my fucking videos. You just go on this tangential fucking bullshit rant. You don't draw anything that's rational. You can't organize any evidence in any form except faked.
Friend that's willing to talk about it.
What an asshole.
Wait, cheers.
Yeah, fuck you, douche. Arrogant, fucking stupid assholes on this planet. That's it. Okay, so enough of that crap. Alright, well, we'll call this one video, and then we'll go on to the other subjects. So what the fuck? Why mix the two? So again, I just made a video on the double slit. Go watch it. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I'll try to post the link below. But it's done. It's cooked. It's my theory predicts more, tells you more about what will happen, with less information, and does so more completely and simply. The math is simpler, It's all the same math, no matter how many slits you have. You use exactly the same mathematical formula. You don't change anything. Yeah, we're done. Okay, my theory works. Their theory sucks. All right, so till next time. Oh, this is just so depressing. I hate this planet.